Your host. On our show today, let's discuss the topic of divorce from the perspective of controversial issues related to women. Is it true that it's easier for men to give a divorce than women? Is it more difficult for women from an Islamic perspective to get divorced? Let's sit down with Dr. Shabir Ally to learn more. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shabir.
Pleasure to be on.
So we're talking about controversial issues specifically related to divorce. So what are some of the general rulings / process around divorce?
First, I would like to say that the matter of divorce in Islamic law is a very complicated one. And we have many different schools of Islamic jurisprudence to deal with here. And because we don't have a systematic outline of the procedures for divorce in the Quran itself or in any particular hadith clearly and authentically attributed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, scholars have had to piece together verses of the Quran and reports about incidents of the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his companions, and try to come up with a comprehensive understanding of what are the procedures for divorce, when does it take effect, when not, and so on. And that has led to multiple opinions on various stages regarding this. And just to give you an impression of that, we have a book here entitled Muslim Law of Divorce by K.N. Ahmed. And you can see it's a hefty volume of 1,100 pages. Leaving the complications aside, let's look at what becomes controversial now for Muslim women. Why does it fit with our series here in which we're saying, okay, we need to go back and look at certain issues. We have to apply ijtihad and look at the spirit of Islam and come up with a sort of paradigm shift that deals with the new realities that we're confronted. We can't just simply dish out the same old rulings as before because they do not fit with our modern context. So one of the issues that is very clear is that in classical Islamic rulings, the divorce was exclusively the right of the man, and the woman had very little say. You know, she just is told that she's divorced, and then lo and behold, she's suddenly divorced. So she finds herself helpless in that situation.
And I've heard this is applied. Like I've heard of stories where this is applicable today as well. So is it true that only men have this exclusive right? And I've also heard, I'll just add, I've also heard basically all men have to do is say the word divorce 3 times and that's it. They're divorced.
And the triple divorce becomes especially problematic because there's a verse of the Quran which says at-talaqu marratan. The divorce is twice. And then if he divorces her, now this is understood now to mean like if he divorces her a 3rd time, then فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ حَتَّى تَنْكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ. Then she's not permissible for him anymore until she marries another husband. فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا أَن يَتَرَاجَعَا. And then if he divorces her, that means the 2nd husband divorces her.
So she can't divorce him, he has to divorce her.
Yes. Then she becomes lawful for the previous husband. Now there is no harm if the 2 of them should reconcile. And what this implies sometimes is that, there's the idea of a revocable divorce and an irrevocable one. If a man utters a divorce, saying to his wife, I divorce you, now that's once. If he does it twice, and that's fine so far, I mean, not fine, but it's still revocable. He can still take his wife back. But if he divorces her the 3rd time, this is like the 3 strikes, you're out. It's over and done with. It's final. Unless she marries somebody else and then the somebody else divorces her, or if the somebody else dies.
Then they can get back together.
Then the 2 of them can get back together. Why this ruling, perhaps we should stop to think about, because it seems a little bit odd, why this kind of complicated procedure. So the rationale is not given in the Quran itself, but some scholars applying their thinking have surmised that what the Quran has in mind here is that let's say a woman is in a difficult relationship, but she's keeping it together either for the sake of the kids or out of embarrassment or whatever. She does not want to let go of this relationship, or she just simply loves her husband. We know that there is such a thing as a battered woman syndrome, that even though the woman is abused, she still stays in the abusive relationship. So if a man is going to divorce his wife, and take her back again, divorce, take her back again, he could do it like, umpteen times, and the woman may remain with him. So the Quran, by stipulating this, that 3 strikes, you're out, means that the woman now finally has to leave that relationship because it's not good for her. The man has been divorcing her again and again, 3 times. This is enough. And the hope is that she will, by marrying somebody else, find happiness in a new relationship, and then, you know, in the end, the outcome is good for her. So the Quran has stipulated the 3 divorces maximum for this reason, for the benefit of the woman.
So I guess my question here is, so it almost positions the woman as someone who's really weak, and therefore she needs a man to have these powers to then give her the courage and be like, okay, you're going to leave. So why would if we say Islam is a religion that empowers women, why the situation, and why do women not have the same right?
Yes, so this is a very important question, and a lot of this has to do with traditional norms, the way things were done in societies in the past, not only in Muslim societies, but more generally. So what is the Quran doing here? The Quran is obviously trying to look at that situation the way it was and giving remedies for some of the most pressing problems, like, for example, the problem of a woman remaining in an abusive relationship. So the divorce is maximized at 3, and then the woman gets a chance to actually leave, because there's an impetus here for her to leave the abusive relationship and to find happiness elsewhere. It probably did not occur to people at that time that, okay, women can now have the opportunity to divorce as well. It was like one-sided. That's how the society thought. But do we have to always think that way? And this is where the problem occurs, in that our scholarship tends to be very conservative, and they try to keep things the way they were, and to refer to past rulings of previous scholars, and they refuse to think outside of the box and to look at the realities of our present situation. Now, some scholars do, and they say that we can have a prenuptial agreement that says that there are certain circumstances in which the woman would have the right to pronounce a divorce. Like, for example, if the man takes on a second wife, that will be a reason for the woman to have the right and to pronounce the divorce in that case. So that there are some such stipulations that could be made in the prenup to give the woman the right of pronouncing the divorce.
What about someone, and obviously I'm a woman, so I wouldn't say this, but what about just playing devil's advocate for a second? What if someone says, well, in the Quran, I'm assuming in the Quran it says specifically about divorce, right? Like the 3 times and you're out. What if someone says, well, there's no reference to women having the ability to do that, so why should we entertain that? For a conservative scholar who says, well, I'm going to stick to the Quran, and there's nothing in there, and this is meant to be a guide for me, so if it's not there, why should I bother?
Well, there are many things in the Quran which actually are not taken literally. Things are taken reasonably in the Quran. And one can give many examples. The prescription that you should write a contract when you have a loan agreement. Scholars say that this is only given as a recommendation. It's not actually, it's not an imposition. It's just saying that this is preferable. We can cite so many examples in the Quran where something is actually given as a command, but scholars have taken it that it's only a recommendation, or something is given as a prohibition, and scholars say that too is only a recommendation. Like, for example, there's a verse in the 24th chapter that says that a believer cannot marry an adulterous person. So, but what do we do with adulterous people then? If they can't get married, what's going to happen? They're going to commit more adultery. Scholars say it's only a recommendation. You can actually get married to a person who has actually committed adultery in the past.
So that's fair. So what do we do in a situation, for example, where I know many women who are in relationships and they want to get out, but they can't because the guy is not willing to get them a divorce. So what's the advice here if we're looking at taking Islam from a positive light, and that it gives women their due right?
Well, there are some recourses here. One is that there is the possibility of a khul, which is a separation from the husband initiated by the woman, that too comes with some kind of disadvantages for women, which we need to address, and depending on how much time we have. But that's one way that the woman can seek release from such a marriage. And the other way is for her to approach some religious authority, a qadi in a Muslim land, a judge, or in some non-Muslim lands, such as in Canada, where Islamic law is not being the governing law. One can seek recourse to a religious authority like an imam, who will then nullify the marriage after investigating the situation. So for example, if a husband happens to be absent, the husband is not fulfilling his responsibilities as a husband, either failing to provide maintenance or failing to provide satisfaction, intimate satisfaction within a marriage, the imam, after investigating the matter, could actually declare the marriage to be null.
So, and as we move forward with this conversation, how do we shift the narrative so that, like you pointed out, we need to change the way even we view divorce and give women their due rights? So how can we as a society start to do that?
Well, it won't be easy, but the conversation needs to begin, and Muslim scholars need to be a very active part of this conversation. You ask why women are not given the opportunity to have this kind of equal access to divorce. And the problem is especially pronounced when we deal with the triple divorces, because what happens is that scholars following the traditional rulings will tend to say that it has to be the way it has always been, and that presents a lot of problems for a woman who finds herself suddenly irrevocably divorced. And sometimes tricks are used to get out of that difficult situation, tricks not initiated by the woman herself, but sometimes by the very imams who are imposing that kind of traditional ruling. There is another ruling which is also traditional, which says that if the 3 divorces are uttered all at once, then this is only considered one. And I favor that ruling because that seems to go with the spirit of what the divorce proceedings were meant to accomplish. But that aside, it still places women in that disadvantaged position. And when we're looking at this whole problem of ijtihad and how do we look back at the classical rulings and try to find the best application for them in our present times, we need to look carefully at this whole problem of divorce as well.
Definitely a complicated issue, but some hope as always. Thank you very much, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.